Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Chris, and in today's video I have some old home decor that I am going to give some new life to. And I just want to take this moment to thank everybody who has subscribed to my channel, who is watching my videos. It really means the world to me. And nothing yet on that giveaway, but we are getting closer, so make sure you have those notification bells on. And with that being said, let's get started. Okay, in our first project, I'm going to take this spoon and fork that I've had for a little bit of time, and as you can see, some of it has broken off. So first thing I got to do is try to fix that. I decided I was going to use some packing paper just to kind of fill up that space in there. So I've got this packing paper, and I cut it in half, and then I cut it in half long ways again, and then I cut that in half, and that seemed to make it just the perfect size to fit in that little space. And when I put it in that space, I just kind of packed it in there. And then I just took another piece of paper. I found that the same size as that other one was just a little too big, so I cut that in half, and then I was able to pack that in there. So the next thing is I've got to try to piece some of these broken pieces in there. So to give me a little bit more stability, I just grabbed my little makeshift round surface holder. I don't even know what to call it, but yeah. Don't judge, I'm on a budget. But yeah, so I went ahead and I found the first piece, and I grabbed some of my Star Bond liquid all-purpose glue. And these, when you purchase this, it comes with these little small applicators, and it makes that job of putting smaller pieces like I'm working with now together so much easier. So once I got that piece all dry, I was on the hunt for another piece to fit, and I did manage to find a couple of pieces, and this piece was smaller than the last piece, so I found that using some tweezers to hold it made it a lot easier to fit it in that gap and let that glue dry. And then there was my third and final piece that I found the spot for, and after that I just couldn't find any more, so it was time to move on. So now it's time to pull out the spackle, and I've just got this color changing spackle, and I'm just really packing it in there. I'm using a plastic butter knife to just kind of pack it in there and spread it around. And honestly, it's just like frosting a cake. This stuff goes on really smoothly. It was easy to work with. And my main objective here was just to get all of it covered up. And then once I got that covered up, I would just kind of take my fingers and smooth it around the edges into the piece itself, just to kind of blend it in so it didn't look, extremely awkward. And I wasn't really too concerned about it being perfect because this is a little bit of a rustic looking piece. All right, so this is the next day, and it looks like it's completely dried, and it's just going to take a very little bit more. And honestly, it's pretty rustic as it is and distressed that I don't guess it really matters how perfect we think it should look, I guess. I'm just kind of bringing it over a little bit here to the side, just so it kind of blends in a little bit better. All right, I'm gonna let that part dry, and then it should be ready to be painted. Okay, so you gotta not mind my cat here. She is persistent. But the spackle is all dry, so now I'm just gonna kind of maybe sand it down just a hair, because this spoon itself has got some texture. Just maybe sand it down a little on the edges so it blends in just a little bit better. And I'm not going to stress too much over it because it will be hanging up on a wall and most people aren't even going to notice that little bit of change. And that looks fine to me. And I'm going to try my best to color match it. I've got this plaster from Waverly and just a little paintbrush. Let's see how close this is. Then it's got some, what appears to be like a darker grayer distressing in it. So I'm going to try Elephant from Waverly and a small little chip brush. That's actually almost kind of perfect, I think. All right, let's draw that down. Next step is I just want to change the appearance, or enhance, I guess you could say. I need to add something so these don't blend into my white walls so badly. So I've got this greenery here, and honestly, I am not sure where I bought this from. I've had it in my stash for a while. Just trying to find the two shortest ones the same size so I can put one in each bundle so I know how short I'm going to want to trim. And once I've got both bundles as full as I want them to be, I'm just going to trim off the excess at the top. And that way they're all even at the bottom. And just to hold it in place, I'm just going to take a little bit of twine and wrap that around. Okay, so now I've got some jute cord, and I picked this jute cord up, usually from Walmart. I'm just going to start by putting a little hot glue down on the back. And I found it just easier to make sure they're even because the bases on the spoon and the fork are a little bit different. It's just to start at the bottom. And I just wrapped it up to the point of where I want to put in my greenery. So when it hangs down, it's to my liking. And I'll just wrap that rope around the greenery, just kind of tucking it in there. And then once I get to the top, I'm just going to use some hot glue and tack that down also. And as far as using glue, the only spots I used glue was on the start and at the end. So I didn't have to use a whole bunch of glue. And these things seem pretty sturdy. And then I'm just going to repeat the same process for the spoon. All right, added some additional colors to these to bring those out. Now, I did see this idea on Pinterest, so I thought I was going to give it a shot, and I think it looks really pretty. So if you're looking to add some wow factor and you've got the spoons and the forks, this is a great idea, especially if you've got white walls like I do. But here's the finale. Okay, so I'm going to spray paint this, but I want to tape off this glass because apparently the glass does not come off. So I'm going to start by taping off the glass with some painter's tape. I tried to remove the glass, but if it comes off, I couldn't figure it out and I didn't want to break it. So I'm just going around that bottom edge of that glass and just taping it all the way around. And when you cut the strips for this, you're going to need to do smaller strips because of the rounded surface. If you use too big of tape, you're not going to be able to get it right without bunching up the tape. So once I got the tape around there, I went ahead and I grabbed a piece of jute string to wrap around the cord. That way I just keep it from dangling and getting in the way. But then I'm going to take just a shopping bag, and wrap that around the glass part of the lamp, and I just kind of tape it in one little spot and then pull it up and tie it. And then I'm just going to take a really big piece of that tape and just go all the way around it, and that part's done. And then I took some saran wrap and wrapped it around the cord. Now that I think about it, I could have used the saran wrap for the glass part. Okay, the lamp has been drying overnight. So I'm going to go ahead and take off my saran wrap here and my plastic. And the color I used was French beige, and it's a Rust-Oleum spray paint, and I used the satin. So I am going to go ahead and try Golden Rule. This is from DIY Paint Company, and it's a gold gilding wax. And I've not ever tried this before, but I'm going to give it a shot. But I thought just maybe giving it a little bit of highlights of gold would be pretty. So that's what I'm going to try. I'm going to start at the bottom just to kind of test it out. Make sure it's something I think I'm gonna like. This kind of got a bunch of fuzz on it when I spray paint on my drop cloth. So I started applying it with my finger and just trying to put it along all the edges, any raised surfaces. And this took me a little bit of time because I kept testing out different application methods. Like I said, I started with my fingers and I would rub it on. If I felt like I got too much on, I would just take a cloth and wipe back some of it. And then next I tested it out with using an artist brush, and this artist brush is a little bit soft. I feel like I kind of liked the application with the brush a little bit better, and I think it's because the surface is such a slick surface that the brush allowed me to get it on just a little bit darker than what my fingers could, and my fingers just kept moving it around everywhere that I didn't want it to go. But the brush, I was able to kind of focus a little bit better on the smaller details. Okay, well, I'm not sure if I'm liking this or not. I know the colors are so close together. It just makes it kind of hard to see it anyway. I don't know. This may be a project I end up doing over sometime down the line. Don't know. If you guys have any recommendations or ideas for this lamp, leave them in the comments down below because I would really like some inspiration. This sign I originally got from Hobby Lobby several years ago, and it looked really good in my old house, and it would look good up in this house too. I just wanted something a little different, and I sure as heck wasn't going to buy anything if I could piece something together between my Cricut machine and Creative Fabrica and some tissue paper, of course. So that's what I'm going to do. And because I know that that black lettering is going to take a lot of paint to cover up since I'm using a lighter color, I'm going to go ahead and sand it down. And I am using I believe it's a 180 grit sandpaper. 220 was just not going to cut it. So I'm going over it with the 180. And once I get the lettering off, I'll go back over it with the 220 just to kind of smooth it out better. And after I wiped all the dust down, I am going to take some painter's tape and tape off the frame. I want to keep the frame the same color. It will just look better with the whiter walls, and my hutch tops got a little brown tone to it, so it'll just look better. And next I'm going to grab vintage linen in the DIY paint and just go over that surface, and I end up putting about 2 coats on, maybe 2.5, just to make sure it was all nice and even and uniform. And I do use my heat gun in between coats, and once I get that final coat on, I will pull off that painter's tape before that final coat dries completely. And I did go ahead and make some stencils on my Cricut machine. Okay, so I'm putting my stencil on, and I've got the top ones on, and I've just got the middle ones here left off. And what I'm gonna need is I need to cut my images from Creative Fabrica out. And I'll have a link to these images in the description box through Creative Fabrica. There's an affiliate link down below. And that is for Creative Fabrica, just to give me a little something extra. But it doesn't cost you guys any extra. If you are interested in, I appreciate you going through my affiliate link. If you're not interested in it, then that's okay too. The biggest support right now that you guys can give me is subscribe, like, and share and comment. And I am going to take my water pen, since these images are so close together, I didn't pay any bit of attention to that when I printed them out. And this is just going to give me a better idea of where I want to put these stencils, the established, which I believe right there is going to do it. And unfortunately, I forgot to put a sealer over my paint before I put my stencils down. So I'm going to be extra careful, otherwise I can get some bleeding of my stencils. So I definitely suggest that you put like some kind of sealer over your paint before you put your stencils. It'll just help with the bleeding process, or the lack thereof. Okay, I got my stencil brush here, and I'll put a link to these stencil brushes in the description box. I got them from Amazon, and they work okay. I like them better because they're softer at the top. And I don't know, those hard bristles I always feel like I just can't figure out my pressure when I'm doing stencils. And I'm just going to use Folk Art's Iron Intense chalk paint. And I'm sure most of you know this already, but make sure when you are stenciling that you don't use too much paint on your brush. So it's definitely a good idea to have a towel there so you can dab that excess off before applying that paint. And I put the wrong year. 94 was when our daughter was born. It's supposed to be 92. Oh well. I guess that's when we completed our family, besides our fur babies. Oh, I guess I'm thinking of my daughter's birth year, because her birthday was just the other day from the time I'm recording this. Okay, well you can tell where my paint wasn't dry in a spot because it peeled up, but that's okay. I'm thinking about making a little bit more rustic looking anyway with some stamps, so that's okay. The next step is to Mod Podge these images down. And this is just me finding center. I just fold the two edges over, meet them up, and at the top I just pinch it a little bit just so I know where center of my image is. My S is center. I'm going to be using Decoupage Napkin by Deco Art. And you know what? I got to make sure my black paint is dry first. So I'm just going to take a blast of heat to it. And then I'm just going to take my water pen once again before I do decoupage these pieces down and just get it a little bit closer to the image, removing as much of the white off as I can, even though I know that white's going to blend in a little bit with the paint color that's there, but that's my perfectionist getting in the way of getting this done quicker. And then I'm just going to take that decoupage and I'm going to start on one side of that larger piece, still keeping in mind where center is. And I'm just going to take some saran wrap and push that saran wrap down on top, just smoothing out and eliminating the bubbles. And I just want to get it as smooth as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, because this is kind of a country piece anyway. But I do like this decoupage. It goes on so smooth. It's a little easier to work with compared to Mod Podge, but you will see I do bounce back and forth between the two. It just depends on what I have on hand. So I decided that before I sealed it, which really doesn't matter because IOD stamp ink is a permanent ink, so you don't have to seal it. So I could have done this in the reverse order. However, I didn't, but I went ahead and selected the crackle stamp and excuse me, and I just put that all over the sign. I kind of wish I would have went with something a little bit different. I think the crackling was just a bit too much, but I don't know. My husband said he really liked it, and so we'll go with what he said, but you guys will have to let me know what you think about the crackling on this sign. Did I overdo it with it? Should I have used something different, or should I just have left it alone? But once I get that crackling finished, I'm going to go over it with a sealer, and I'm going to use the Rust-Oleum clear sealer. And if you made it this far in the video, thank you guys so much for your support. And let me know in the comments down below which of these three was your favorite today. And I'll see you on the next one.